Julian, we are ready to get going.
Okay, Hot Lahain Oiklo, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome language revitalizationist, master storyteller, poet, and playwright, Angel Sobotta, to Washington State University. Inamunitwas, Julian Ankney. My name is Julian Ankney, instructor in the Department of English, coordinator of Native programs, and co-director of the Visiting Writer Series here at WSU Vancouver. I am joining you from inside the Vancouver campus classroom, so that's why you kind of see me like this. And I would have worn a different shirt that didn't have a stain on it. Sorry about that. I'd like to thank our partners at WSU Pullman, WSU Tri-Cities, WSU Vancouver, the English Department's Common Reading Series, ASWSUV, Landscapes, the Office of Equity and Diversity, Native American Programs, and the Campus Literary Journal. I also want to thank our tech wizard, Rob Baker. Without him, we would cease to exist, as well as my partner in crime for this semester and co-director of the series, Cameron Reed McGill, on Tech Tonight. Katiao Oikalo, thank you everyone, our esteemed audience, for making time to be with us here tonight. We are a far-flung in these virtual times and events, and we'd love to see you put in the chat where you all are, where you're all from, and whose Indigenous land you currently reside on. Tonight, I come to you from the homelands of the Chinook and Taimapan peoples and the Cowlitz Indian tribes here in Vancouver. Palutzpu or Palouse people in Pullman residing on the Nimipuwakes or Nez Perce lands and our connection to them. Washington State, Itamanwas Esukisif. Washington State University acknowledges Nunim Nimipum and Akonma po Wakiswit Waktis. Our people's ancestors and living earth. Kayochma ku Minihiwis, Biwaki, Titogan Wakis, Hitawiatsina. And those people somewhere are each now Native people's lands where they reside. Wakima, Biyautzet Pamakinik, Timitnik, and remembrance across time or since time immemorial. Washington State University acknowledges that its locations statewide are on the homelands of Native peoples. The university expresses its deepest respect for and gratitude towards these original and current caretakers of the region. We also pledge that these relationships will consist of mutual trust, respect, and reciprocity. I also want to remind you that the land acknowledgements are just one step toward honoring Indigenous peoples' long presence on all US land and recognizing our continuing connection to the earth, water, air, and to our Anaconma ancestors. Sobotta's reading has direct links to our common reading book this year, Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and Indigenous Knowledges, Cultures, and Survivance. Before we begin, a couple of housekeeping items. Please use the YouTube chat to engage and respond throughout the reading. And we'll also have a Q&A after Sobotta's reading where you can ask your burning questions. Our next event, hosted by WSU's Visiting Writer Series, is next Wednesday, February 15th at 6 p.m. We'll be welcoming reading and Q&A with prose poet Jose Hernandez Diaz, and the following week's events with the renowned Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer that has been rescheduled for Tuesday, February 21st. So look for that on our website, which should also be in the chat. We hope to see you there. If you're here for the common reading event, we will put the Qualtrics link in the chat for the end of the reading, so watch for it. Angel Sobotta is an enrolled member of the Nez Perce tribe, language revitalizationist, master storyteller, poet, and playwright. She has worked for the Nez Perce language program since 1998, serving as coordinator and teaching language at Lapway schools, the Mamayas Hitamimlas Children's Learning Place, Kamia and Clearwater Valley Schools, Northwest Indian College, Lewis and Clark State College, University of Idaho, and Washington State University Pullman. Sobotta's research is Titwatit, Nimiputent Wakdes, Septimalichnicht, Nimipuitki, Ka Sukwanawit, the stories, Nimipu language, land, investigating the Nez Perce people's way of thinking and knowing. She is a member of Lukupsime, North Star Collective, which revitalizes language creativity through writing. Sobotta has numerous speaking presentations for the Nez Perce Appaloosa Horse Club, discussing family history and cultural stories on YouTube and PBS. Her publications include And She Sings, and She Weaves, Nez Perce Women's Writers Institute Anthology 2018, The Strength and Beauty of Native Women, Survivance is Born and Reborn in My Phenomenal Mother, Women's Wisdom, Women's Strength, Yellow Medicine Review 2020, and Isukisik, Nunum Patao Nimiputin. We acknowledge our precious people's language. Tehka inatao yaktetu nimipu inwas inka eyawin was. When I feel like the people, I am me, and I am at peace. Wutzikin hitolaitzich, words going upriver, and oyach ziwat, indispensable. Lukupsine, North Star Collective, 2022. We are pleased to welcome Angel Sobotta, Inam Laptiwa Kasapatam Nawat, my friend and teacher. Katsiario Angel, for being here with us tonight.
All right, Katsiario Julian. So I want to just express that I am very excited that to hear Julian do her address as she did, because Julian was one of my Hitamina, my students. And so to hear her express herself in that way with the Nimiputim, the people's languages, just makes me really joyful. So Tots at Papine Oikalo, it's good you came here, Ki Kalawat, this evening. And so I just want to give you a little brief agenda of what I'm going to do before I really jump into it. I am going to share some Titwatit, some stories that I wrote years ago, a long time ago, so that you can see where my head was years ago, like 30 years ago or something like that. And then a few new things, and also with some Titwatit, some storytelling. Some of you who know me, who are out there, hello. There might be some things that I'm going to read that you didn't know about me before, or you might see this other personality jump out, and I call her Lisa. And so Lisa might be popping out. I don't know if I've ever introduced you to this person that I call Lisa, but I'm going to go ahead and start off with my PowerPoint, and then drag my readings over here, I believe, so that I can see. Well, I guess it's right there. Okay, so okay, I think, is it on now? Can you see my PowerPoint, Julian?
Yes.
PowerPoint's coming through.
Okay, it's coming through. Okay, so I'm going to do this is my introduction. So Inamonik was Talat Lilt, my Titokatim Winik, my native name, Nimipu name, is Talat Lilt, and it is representing the red glowing part of the sunset. And so this is who I am. And so Yapotim, Angel McFarland Sobotta, McFarland being my maiden name and Sobotta my married name. All right, how do I go forward? Not sure how to move forward on this. Oh, I guess I just do it on this screen right here. Is that right?
Clicking on the PowerPoint should do it. Sometimes it's one click to bring focus to it, then the next click to advance.
Okay, so one click.
Also, right on your keyboard in advance, and you also have those arrows in the bottom left.
Okay, I see these now. Okay, there it is. Okay, so na eats he was Rosa May Spencer year out. My mother's Rosa May Spencer year out, and her Titokatimp is Witsesa, born and reborn. Natot Hiwaka, my father was Larry McFarland Sr. He served in Korea and he passed away in 1971. Klutz Hiwaka, my paternal grandpa Hiwaka, John McFarland, also known as Jack McFarland. Nael, paternal grandma Hiwaka, Louise Matthew Heichel. And pictured here with my oldest brother, Mike. Oh, I can't see those things. Where'd they go? Nakotz Hiwaka, Rena Catherine Ramsey. My maternal grandmother was Rena Catherine Ramsey. Her name was also Witsesa, born and reborn, and she was a woman. And she married Naplach Hiwaka, my great grandfather, was Hiwaka Titus Spencer. And Titus was an actor in Hollywood. And this is my family, Enum Nechsetza, M.Y. Nechsetza, McFarland year out. And so these are all of my siblings. And after my father passed away, my mother married my auntie's best friend. One of my mom's best friend, Auntie Elaine, introduced her to John, and she married. And so here we are numbered from lefty, all the way over here. And so we have Mike, Yogi, Kathy, Don, Angel, Joyce, Gloria, Jack, and Abe. This is my family, the M.Y. Sweetwater Appaloosa family. And then from there, this is Enum Nechtetze, my family, the Sobotta family. This is Enum Hama, my husband, Bob. Oldest daughter, Glory, standing next to Bob. I'm not sure, hopefully you can see my mouse. And then in the middle, Grace Sobotta, and youngest, Faith Sobotta, myself, and my son, Peyton Sobotta. My son, Peyton Sobotta, is a Washington State University student. So he's up there right now. He works for the Mask up there. And Faith, sophomore at Lapway High School. She's a volleyball player and she golfs. She stopped playing basketball. My daughter, Grace, wonderful basketball player, but she is going to school full-time at LCSC online and living in Hawaii right now. We hope she comes back soon. And then Glory Rose, she's at Spokane Falls Community College playing basketball there. And Bob works for Lewis Clark State College. So I'm going to get into my first Titwatit, my first story. Okay. And this is what I call, let me see, I'm trying to move these things so I can see better over here. I guess if maybe I shouldn't do that. I was going to slide it over there. Okay. So blood is thicker than the river water. And this is a Titwatit, a story that I started writing, I believe, in 1997. And I want to continue to work on it because there's a lot of things in it that just I like to go back and revisit. So I'm going to read you only about just a little bit of a page on this. Okay. So here we go. That's the wrong one. Blood is thicker than the river water. Cruising back to the Nez Perce Res from the town with no air conditioning in the car, the banana belt heat zone weather had my cousin Inga and I beat burning red. Through the hand-controlled sunroof, the sun was beaming on our golden brown foreheads. Summer sweat dripped off the back of our hams, rolling down our legs, and combined with dirt from our softball game, which practically turned into mud onto the hot vinyl seats. Winning an exciting comeback, we were crowned as league champs. we bobbed along to the old school tunes of Zapp's Doo-Wah-Diddy on the cassette player, our heads bouncing back and forth, keeping in time with the pumped up jams as the days old chant rang through my head. We're number one, we're number one. We headed east on Highway 12 along the Clearwater River Drive with our brown, dusty arms extended out the windows. Our hands playfully fought the warm, strong force of air currents. Our wind-blown, dark brown, messy, long ponytails tangled with the hairspray coming unglued, and softball-filled dirt ratting it even more. The river looked so inviting and tempting to jump in, but our plans changed. Rain check. As we approached a scenic view pullout, there he was, leaning his back against the brown historical site sign. He had one leg crossed over the other, a blue jean, brown leather jacket wearing in the hot summertime type of guy. His stomach hung out about as far as his extended hitchhiking thumb and arm, while his other hand was coolly placed on his hip. His stance was wide and firm in his dusty brown cowboy boots. His slanted eyes stared far into space out of his black wide-rimmed glasses, looking mad at the world, an intimidated, devilish sight with his mustache and pokey hairs growing out of his chin, badly needing to shave. His long black hair was pulled back into a frizzy braid that hung down his back like a snake. The type of Indian Hollywood loves, stoic. His face dark brown and red like a summer construction worker flagging. Cars whizzed by him for hours. His body was stiff as iron, like a sculpture, as if he were a historical site himself. And in a way, he is. We recognize that he is a fellow tribal member, so we slow down. Ordinarily, we would whiz by this site of endangerment and pretend not to see him. But in this instance, blood was thicker than the river water that we wanted to jump in. He was our cuz, second or third degree, but still, he was our cuz. Plus the pressures of being a friendly Nez Perce and a Christian knowing WWJD, what would Jesus do? We had no choice. So I pull over my 87 gray 4-door Toyota with license plate frames that say Jesus loves you. The frame itself is held together by a bit of duct tape here and there. Give it a few more years and it will truly be in the rankings of a beat up Indian car. Like magic, a cloud of dust forms around him from my car tires hitting the dirt next to him. He disappears for a split second until the cloud of dust falls back down to earth. He recognizes maybe that we are relation, maybe not that we're relation, but that we are Indian. With no words said, only nonverbal acknowledgements, he briefly converses with the pointing of his chin and head nod. In return, we answered with upraised eyebrows, and with the eyebrows that in Indian Sign Language translate to the same as hi. Inga unlocks the door to invite him in. He plops in his 250 pounds, weighing the car down, and the shifting of his body causes the car with new air shocks to bounce up and down, keeping in time to now my favorite Zapp and Zapp tune, More Bounce to the Ounce, blasted up to volume 10. No questions asked, I pulled onto the highway as I innately understood Lapway to be his hitchhiking destination. The smell of fresh cows overpowers the several faded blue, red, yellow, green pine tree air refresheners hanging from the mirror. He smells fresh out of sweat, clean, smelling even better than us. His is from the cleansing sweat bath, while ours was more like a mud bath. He's armored with the arm and hammer of all roots, kaus, which could be used as men's cologne, deo, and medicine. It does everything, and I imagine if you put it in the fridge, it would do the same as Arm & Hammer's baking soda. So that's one of my stories from 1997 that I started years ago, and I want to finish it. And so I have some characters in here that I'm related to, and so they kind of know this story. So anyhow, that's the first one. I wanted to get you to know what I was thinking. How many years ago was that? But I like to play around with some things. Okay, so oops, next slide. Why is it not going? Okay. So now I'm going to get into this one. I'm going to turn my okay. I know you were all there, but it's really kind of weird. I feel like I have to really be over the top because I'm used to teaching classes and have an interaction. And I had to teach a language class like this last year where it was just me. And so I try to really, it feels really strange to not see anybody. So anyway, I'm doing the best I can. So now, and she sings and she weaves. This is a titwatit, a story that I wrote about my grandmother. And I think it says it was published in 2018, but I wrote it way before that time. And this is Rena Catherine Ramsey. And pictured here is her father, Sam Lott, Ilachni Autassin, many wounds, who my brother Mike carries on that name, and her mother, Cecilia Sholway Williams, also known as Talat Lilt, the red glowing part of the sunset, and I carry on that name. So I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. It's a little bit different than the last one I read. And she sings and she weaves by Angel Sobotta, Talat Lilt, Sunset. 2001 is when I wrote this. Iya wan pesain it's near was mau. Katza, grandma sings her weaving song, while the early morning birds accompany her and sing in the background. We sit at the round yellow wood table, eating her mean cornmeal, she'd say. That mean cornmeal meal, it pops up and burns you when it boils. On her blue tweed chair, she hunches over slightly, wearing her long white flower cotton nightgown. Her hard, puffy, ashy feet stay comfortably warm in her creamy, cushiony, blue light special slippers she got at Kmart's. Through the sliding window doors, the morning sun peeks in on her. It rises up over the high bare hill, beaming a sweet smile of light on her gray, white, thin hair that curves in and out and down to her shoulder blades. With her pink brush, gently, she brushes her fluffy hair. The white bristles blend in with her hair and disappear with each stroke. With the natural oils of her hair and the leftover clumpy wild root balm, she manages to smooth down the fluffs of her hair that flow like white eagle plumes. As she yawns, so does the morning sun, rising and stretching, lending its golden glow of good morning hellos to Graham's bronzy brown soft face. Her cheeks sag and puff out like a chipmunk full of nuts. Yawning even more, a tear creeps out of her brown gray eyes. The steam from her morning coffee, like a diamondback rattlesnake, it rises left and right out of her white casino cup as she puts a pink packet of sweetened low in, being careful of her diabetes. Gracefully, she reaches out with her tan buckskin puffy hands and her long 1-inch yellow corn husk color nails. Gathering her halfway done corn husk bag, the tightly woven bag has a purple and pink diamondback rattlesnake design. Strangely, the Wachpus rattlesnake being one of her powers, along with the Tiska skunk, but both are powerfully strong, ruthless, but she is sweet. In Western Guinness, when Puyukum, one pitki. And so she continues to sing and hums her weaving song. Her corn husk lay on her white tissue paper that she uses to capture the water after she soaks a husk in a blue teacup. Being careful, she also gathers her hair from her brush and bundles them into a ball and buries it in the white tissues. She stuffs them into her pocket so that no one can use her hair against her. She remembers the day when she had a whole lot of hair that people could use against her and a whole lot more reasons for them to do so. 1928, age 10. She lays face down on a Pendleton blanket. Bam, 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 swat, 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 spank, spank, spank. Are you going to do it again? The whipman asks her in Indian. Yes, she replies. Bam, 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 spank, 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 swat, swat, swat. He whips her again and asks again in Indian. Are you going to do it again? Again, she replies. Yes. He whips her again. Bam, 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 spank, 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 whip, whip, whip. His wife intervenes. Stop whipping her, poor girl. She's Nez Perce. She doesn't understand the Yakima language. Remembering, she covers her mouth with her hand and giggles out loud. And she shakes her head, trying to shake out that embarrassing memory. As she continues to weave, she pauses to flex her hands in and out to avoid cramping. I zoom in on her hands and admire her weaving. Her golden brown tan buckskin hands stand out against the off-white yellowish corn husk. Kawawakais inewakis wetuskach. And she continues to sing. With each twist, she weaves in and out of flashbacks, reminiscing about her dad. Age 12, she remembers how he carried her on his back, and she weaves. Age 13, she remembers how her dad gave her a skunk pelts for protection, and she weaves. She remembers how sad she was to lose those skunk pelts from her dad in a house fire, and she weaves. Age 15, she remembers the night she heard the coyote howling, and she weaves. She remembers the next day when they told her, your dad went into the sweat house alone and died of a heart attack. And she weaves. Now she lifts her right tan buckskin puffy hand to her cheek to gently catch the tear of love that flows for her dad as it weaves back and forth down her cheek, leaving a rattlesnake trail on her face. She thinks about death and sings. Ia ban pesain, it's niwas pamahu, in Weston Kennes, when Puyukun, when Pitki, out Niski, Kawawakekas, in the peace with two scout. Kona saya at Cowan Kona, saya at Cowan Kona. Eights Niwaspa Tusti. Singing I am in heaven, where I am to die. Sing to me with a holy song, then to fly my life up. There are no problems there, in heaven up there. And she is Witsesa, born and reborn into heaven, reunited with her pissed father, Samuel Lot, Ilachni Altasin Many Wounds, and her Pika, mother, Cecilia Sholway Williams, and Pink stepfather, James Williams, singing together in heaven. Her life flew up. Rena Catherine Ramsey. And so that's my Katsats, my grandmother, Rena Catherine Ramsey. And here I'm working I'm weaving, singing and weaving and reading as I just read this to you. I'm weaving on a piece. I learned how to weave from my grandmother, Catherine, and Grandma Katsy, she taught the rest of us to weave, and the sisters, we worked with some of our own kids in weaving. And this was started, just like you see this bag here, my grandmother started the darker part of the bottom of that, and I never had any of her finished pieces. But after she passed away, I started, you can see the lighter top, like halfway up, I started that and finished it all the way to the top. And so I'm carrying on her legacy in this way with the stories and the weaving. And in the same aspect, my nephew started this for me, my nephew Kellen Turnell Lewis, and I'm going to finish this. And I just wanted to connect with my grandma today while I read the song, read her story that I wrote for her and what she taught me. She taught me this, and she taught me the stories. So this was dedicated to Nutkats, Rena Catherine Ramsey. So I'm putting that over there. And I just do want to give a little bit of background on the song I sang. This was a song that was sung in 1877. It's a translated Nimipu hymn. And in 1877, our Nimipu were on the flight to freedom, and we didn't want war. And it is said that we brought about 2,000 horses across the Nimipu Lolo Trail. And during that time, there were some people, some ladies that sang this song on the trail. And every time I ride on the Nimipu Trail, I always sing this song too in remembrance of them. But as they were singing this song, they sang it realizing that they probably will not be able to go back to their people anymore, that they didn't know where they were going, but they made themselves brave, and they thought about death, and they thought about being in a happy place where there's no problems. And so I say my grandma sang her weaving song, and I made this her weaving song. Sometimes she would just hum or just weave, but I imagine when she would talk about her dad and missing him, that she was thinking about him. And so I created this as her weaving song, but that's the background of this Winnet. So 2001, I wrote it, and it was published in 2018. Okay, so next, here we go. Why doesn't it? Okay, I have to go right here. Okay, and so now we have this one. So I read Rena Catherine Ramsey, Watsessa Born and Reborn, and this is her daughter, Nait's, my mom, Rosa May Spencer Yearout, who now carries on the name Watsessa Born and Reborn, and she also carries the whip that my grandma had. My grandmother was the whip woman, and the whip woman and the whip man, they used to have the responsibility to discipline the children, which I think that is actually a real loving type of way to have someone else whip your kids. And of course, they didn't want to be sent to the whip man or whip woman, but when they did send them, they would send, if somebody got in trouble, they would send the whole group, and they would all get a whipping. But what that did is that taught responsibility. It taught the young ones to look out for each other, because don't do that, we're all going to get it. And so my mother, she carries the whip today, and the way she carries it is how Nakat's Grandma Katsy used to carry it. And they serve as the whip women, whip a man at other people at the Chief Joseph and Warriors Powwow, which is the third week in June every year. And so the way they use the whip now is they have the authority over the floor. And if they want you to stand, they just raise the whip. And sometimes they have to get after children who are running around, but that signifies authority. But the way my Katsats used to hold their whip, and my mother today, they do it with grace and love. And so I want to now read this Titwatit, the story that I wrote about Nait's, my mom. who just celebrated her birthday on February 4th. The strength and beauty of a Native woman. Survivance is born and reborn in my phenomenal mother. By Angel Sobotta, October 1st, 2020. Dear Oprah, a handwritten letter to Oprah Winfrey that I wrote years ago about my mother, hoping that mom would be featured on the Oprah Winfrey Mother's Day show. I wanted the whole world to know how special, strong, and phenomenal my mom is. But it doesn't matter that the world or Oprah knows, that my mom knows just how special, strong, and phenomenal I think she is. My mom, Rosa May, like Mother Mary, is full of grace and strong in faith. You see, at the age of 38, her husband, my dad, went home to heaven, leaving her, my mom, a widow with 7 kids. Imagine the heartbreak, the struggle. She picked herself up, and for us, she continued on. A pretty Nez Perce circle dance song in her buckskin dress, headband, and feather, beautiful mother danced with grace, grace, grace. Her rose-colored cheeks and lips, men in the crowd wished to kiss. One handsome man eventually did, and they fell in love. Marriage and 2 sons, the siblings expanded to 9, and with 100 Appaloosa horses. Mom, how did you manage to survive? The strength within you came from many years before you were even born. When you told me the Creator knew you and named you even before you were born. The strength came when your namesake, Watsessa, born and reborn, saw her loved ones killed all around her, but she survived that battle in 1877, the Nez Perce Nimipu flight to freedom. Others called it war. Watsessa, her survivance, was born and reborn in you and in your mom, our grandma, Rena Catherine Ramsey, too, who carried that same name as you. You inherited grandma's name and her title as What Women Too, a respected, authoritative figure you have always been, displaying your role with a soft voice, compassion, and like your dance with amazing grace. Strength handed down from generation to generation. Thank you for teaching us about the royal blood that flows through our veins. You connected us to our ancestors, their stories we hold dearly within us. You taught us to ride our Appaloosa horses so that we can experience following our ancestors' footprints on the Nez Perce Trail. You lead the way, show us the way, and in life, you always guide us on the right path, speaking gently with love and kindness, giving us good sound advice. And when others realize that you are my mom, their eyes sparkle and they say with fondness and love, "Oh, Rosa May's your mom?" And we smile. My heart and spirit is filled with warmth as my eyes water with pride that you are loved by so many and that you, who they admire, is who I call Itza, mom. And so that's, okay. Mom, may your love, your strength, and your faith be born and reborn into each generation, and may the legacy you leave be blessed with your beautiful radiant glow, with a big warm hug and a kiss on your face. I love you, Mom. You are so special, so strong, and such a phenomenal mom. So this is mom. And this was in the Yellow Medicine Review, and this beautiful rose, and my mother Rosa. And here she is, all aglow in all her Thompsons, all her Rosa, all her roses. So that's Nait's, my mom. And so now I'm going to just share with you a couple of things about her. This is her, Rosa May. And she's with her brother, my Uncle Jim, who passed away a couple of years ago. And mom serving as women at the Chief Joseph Warriors powwow several years ago. And my oldest brother, Mike. Mom as a young, beautiful young lady. Mom as a young lady where she went into pageants and won different pageants here and there. And then, of course, mom is really strong with our horse family, our Nez Persepolis Horse Club. Her and my stepdad John keep us together as our Nez Persepolis Horse Club. And here they're pictured here riding, it looks like in Naha area. And then with her daughter or her granddaughter Faith May Angel, the middle name May coming from both my mom and Faith's other grandma, Alex Loretta. They both share the name May. And this is Nait's, my, oops. Okay, I guess it's not there. So this is my mother. And now I'm going to go ahead and get on to the next reading. And so in this one, we have our group called Lukupsime. And Lukupsime is referring to the star without movement. And the star without movement is the North Star. And so we had an assignment we meet every Friday, and the assignment was to do an acrostic. And so this is my acrostic, and it is based on the word himin, and himin means wolf. And so you can read it this way or down this way, but it's H, hinas hanyanya, iskit, misami, itsiaya, ituitset, nesawenu. And so it's saying, hinas hanya, he made them, iskit, a trail, misami, liar, itsiaya, coyote, ituitset, for what reason? Nesawenu. And Nesawenu is coyote in the myths. And so this was inspired by this Wiespel Sump, this buckskin shirt that Yacht's older brother Phil shared with us to inspire us to write. And our regalia has the Chitsiyu, the stars on it. And so I'm going to share this Titwatit with you, a little bit of it. And this is it's a very powerful Titwatit that my younger cousin Josiah shared with me. And let me see this next slide. Okay, I'll come back to it. So I'm just doing it's a really short story, but there's a lot of power in this. And so Wakipa, a long time ago, there was Pachlo Himin, 5 wolf brothers. And they were walking around, and then they saw these lapit, these 2 things up in the sky. And they were wondering what it is. What's up there? What are they doing? What are they looking at? And they just were wondering what they were looking at. And then Itsiaya, he told Lightside, he is going upriver. He always goes upriver. And he sees the 5 wolf brothers looking up, and they're just intently looking up at those 2 things up in the sky that are also looking up. And he was wondering what they were looking up at. And so Itsiaya, what he did for the Himin, the wolf brothers, is he shot arrows, zap, 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 arrows up in the sky, zap, zap, zap. And we shot them, then the Himin, the wolves, they walked up there. And so they got to go up there with the hachats. These two stars are the hachats, the grizzly bears. But what Itziyaya did, Itziyaya is a trickster. He took those arrows down. And so now the 5 wolf brothers are stuck up in the sky, and they form the handle of this. We call this whole thing Hiyum Tachto. Hiyum Tachto means grizzly bear tracks. And that's talking about when grizzly bears sneaking up, but it's referring to the grizzly bear tracks. And you may look at this as the Big Dipper, but we look at it and we say Hiyum Tachto. And when I teach this Titwatit, the story to my students, I always say, look, find where Hiyum Tachto is tonight. Don't go out there and say, oh, there's the Big Dipper. This is our story. We have to reclaim it. We named it and reclaim it. We call it Hiyum Tachto. And the hachats, the grizzly bears, we always learn from them. Even in the sky, we learn from them. And what they're doing is they're just intent, and they're just looking up at Lukupsime. Lukupsime means without movement. Lukup, 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 lukup is pulsating, but sime means without. So it's without pulsating, without movement. And so they teach us to look and to be calm and steady, because that's what Lukupsime is calm and steady. And so when I'm teaching with my students, I try to teach them culturally. And one of the words I tell them all the time is imamo selkit, be quiet, be quiet. But I have implemented a cultural relevant teaching using this when I want them to be still now. This is how Hiyum Tachto looks in the Tayam, the summer, and it rotates. This is how Hiyum Tachto looks in the Sechnim in the fall and rotates with the earth. This is how Hiyum Tachto looks now in the winter. And right here, El Wet is coming out of winter and rotates up here to full Wach springtime, the rainy season. And so if you notice this design is our supplus, it's our whirlwind. And this is a very powerful symbol because this is like a roadmap in the sky. And then we connect to this. This is a medicine, it's a medicine. And then I'm gonna try to go forward. I can't see these buttons here. Okay, so this is, go back. This is the seasonal grounds. And Nikhil Williamson, or CWAS, he drew this picture for us. He's a great artist like his father, Nikhil Williamson, Williams. I'm getting mixed up here, sorry. Williamson. And so here, this is how Hiyum Tachto looks in the winter. And it shows you everything that we're doing. Up here, it's the roots. Over here is where we get berries. Down here, the fish. This is our seasonal round. So it's a roadmap in the sky. And then, as I showed you, a little sneak peek. So this is it. This is our surplus. Oops. Our surplus. And this is on some designs that we have. This is on a horse trapping. And in this one, it doesn't look like this, but this is the same design. It comes from Hiyum Tachto. And this is, you see here, the surplus on a corn husk bag, surplus on a huckleberry or wedding basket. Of course, this isn't ours, but this is a Navajo rug, and our sally bag or our root bag, and a war bonnet. And so this design, it's our stories, it's connected to our stories. And it's important for our kids to know this, and anybody to know it, because when people look at this, they think it's a swastika, and that is not right. It's a very beautiful symbol, and we're trying to reclaim it, take it back, and educate people so that they know this man years ago took our indigenous symbol and turned it into something evil. And it's not a swastika. It's, to us, it's our surplus. It represents the surplus, the whirlwind, Lukupsime, Hiyum Tachto. Okay, and so now I'm going to get into, this is something that I recently did, and I like to, oh, okay, I need to expand it. I like to play with sounds. Okay. And so this is called Sunrise, Sunset, Twilight, Moonlight. And I started it in December and did some edits a couple days ago. So this, it has Nimiputim, the people's language, and English combined. And this is what we do in our Lukupsime, is we try to revitalize the language creatively using our language and trying to put some into writing. And so these are words I focus on. A lot of them I know, and then there's some new words in there that I want to know. So then I put it in my writing. Okay. So what, twilight, cow on dawn, Sikatin dark, night is gone. Tanusset sunrise, Lahain day, come on. Deep it, he was, it is cloudy, whack it, rain, pitter patter, drip drop on the water, coos water, seaside, seashore, hot gel wind, takasa yoho, hinmat, lightning, thunder, pow. The storm rolls in, sand, suppless swirls, him dusk. So what's a what? Dark after Tanainak, the sunset appears. Lahain hihinikas, the day is done. Sikatin, night, dark, moonlight shimmers, glistening waters, waves. He pachamta powwow, fancy, dancing, roaring, war hoops. Ooh, ooh, Sikauta, I am scared, scarred of that. Kotwaya, wait, look up. Chitsiu, stars appear. Liu, 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 twinkle, twinkle. Ilakawa, bright. Lukupsime, star without movement. North stars stand still. Talich, no wind, calm. Yokohkuya, I calmed down. Eowyn was, I am calm. So there's my little Titwatit, and I'm fascinated with all things sky. And I have different stories that I wrote on the star beings. And there's different names we have for a lot of the different Chitsiyu stars and the moon, and stories that go with them as well. I'm really fascinated with them. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to try to move this. This is in my way. I call this Angels Crazy Stories of fantasy, fiction, and nonfiction escapades. And I started last year, February 27th, 21. And I have some things here that help me in getting this. So the characters in this is called Bawling Noon Baller. Bawling Noon Baller. And the other character in this is called Smarty Artie. So we have Bawling Noon Baller and Smarty Artie. And so I'll read this and I'll kind of tell you who's saying the lines, and then pretty soon you'll be able to, hopefully be able to tell the difference between Bawling Noon Baller and Smarty Artie. Okay. Smarty Artie says, yes, it's a awitsa, poor thing. Why are you crying? Bawling Noon Baller, crying, whimpering. So close, Lisa. I'm crying. I made the shot and I got fouled. Stupid Jeff the ref didn't call the foul and said my shot was after the buzzer. We could have had We could have won those long leather sleeve championship jackets. I gave it my all. Weetza, weetza, weetza. What game? You only play noon ball with the tribal employees now. No leather sleeve jackets to be won at noon ball. And still blaming it on the refs. Oh, I should have prayed to the grandmas, asking them to pray for the refs. Manama, what the? No tears. I'm just practice crying. Weetza, trying to get the real tears to roll out. Weetza. Practice crying. Weetza. Yeah. You know, like how our nephews and nieces used to cry when they were little kids after a loss. Now they're all really good athletes. Crying shows that they have tamina, heart for the game. So I'm preparing myself for the next 30 and over all Indian women's tourney, basketball tourney in Fort Hall. You know, get that fight back in me. I was fierce, trying to conjure up the feelings of defeat so that I'll remember how it feels and then win. That's what champions do. And eat their Wheaties too. Hey, jeez. But you're over 55 though. I know, but no 55 and over tourneys. So I have to play in the 30 and over against girls that can be my daughters. Girl, oh, don't think that will help you at this point. Too late for hoop dreams, but yeah, pray for the grandmas to pray for you and not the refs, because you'll probably need it. I can still have hoop dreams. It's worth a try. Might as well get a leather sleeve championship jacket at Goodwill. Goodwill? Sacrilege. Hey, those things are still worth something, you know. Can maybe find them at a yard sale or silent auction still. Yeah, but are they still in style if it's like a 40-year-old jacket? I don't know why Indian tourneys still give out long sleeve leather jackets. I know, right? They should give out bikes. That would be cool. Or for all-star, fanny packs. Those are coming back. Fashion citation. You are stuck in the 80s. Like, just beat it already with the 80s. You used to be Miss Fashion. It's pitiful. Look at you now. I know, and it damn pandemic has me sporting nothing but sweats and tennis shoes. If you really want a long sleeve jacket, leather championship jacket, you can just snag one. Snag a 55 and over Hama, man. Not at this age. Besides, I snagged my Hama husband, shy guy, years ago. I'll just get one of his MVP or all-star or one of the championship jackets from his closet. And you can hickey him up hickey him all up still too, eh? Yeah, he's still my MVP. Trifling girl, still jealous of me that I snagged the ultimate snag. His team did win at Fort Hall last year too. You need pats with I have to pee. Your fantasy hoop dreams at age 40, at our age, has made me almost wet my pants. Oh, and speaking about snags, finish telling me that that story about the 49 when I get back. Bah. So now the bawling noon baller stands in front of the refrigerator in reverence, eyes closed, praying the mealtime prayer that she learned at Girl Scouts camp, Hiawatha. Just kidding. It was learned at culture camp. Not sure if it makes a difference in these stage directions, but she prays. Katsiyaw ya nunam hanyuat ki mate. Thank you, Creator, for this breakfast. Lucky Charms and mush. Smarty Artie returns, catches her standing in front of the fridge praying. Geez, gonna eat the whole Yawi time fridge? Not going to eat a bowl of Lucky Charms. no, I'm gonna eat a bowl of Lucky Charm, a bowl of Lucky Charms, and then heat up my sea mush in the Yawitz Ein fridge, the theme for cold, and not Yawitz Ein cold poop, as you said it. They teach you to say Yawitz Ein cold poop at Camp Hiawatha. Yeah, earned a fluffy yellow feather for it too. So this is my poop dreams story. And I am 58 years old now. I haven't played noon ball in some time, a couple of years because of an injury, but I still have hoop dreams. And these are the hoopers in my family. Here's Peyton, which I love this. He got MVP at the Tulalip Powwow or basketball tournament in 2019. And this looks like he is a giant and standing like over this little leprechaun, but it's an illusion. This is actually like a little cliff right here, and he's down here below. But I just love that picture because it makes me laugh. This is my Hama. My Hama, it means my husband. And I don't know if you can see this, but I am wearing his leather sleeve jacket that I got out of his closet. And it says Fort Hall on it. And here they won championship, but as you can possibly see, it says MVP. So I snagged this from my Hama, who was an MVP. Actually, I'll put it back in his closet. But this is the leather sleeve jackets that I'm talking about. And of course, my daughters, Glory and Grace, state champions. All of these were state champions. And these are the ballers in my family. And I can only have little hoop dreams. Okay, so now I'm going to get into this wheat meat nama. I'm going to share a little bit of this Titwatit, this story. And this is something that is really powerful to me. I get a lot of power out of it just about every single time. This is located across from the Clearwater River Casino, Highway 12. Idaho Highway 12, and just right on entering our reservation. But along that whole corridor is Titwatit stories, all up and left and right, all over. But this one has several different names. One, they refer to it as the council place, and also origin of the sweat house. But it's also called wheat meat nama, and some say wheat meat nama. So wheat meat nama, this story, I'm going to share it with you a little bit, and then I'm going to go into the real meaning of this word. So Wakipa, a long time ago, before the Natito, the human beings, the animal people, they needed to prepare for the Natito, the human beings to come. And so they made the sweat house in the Wustatamo sweat house, and this is also like kind of like a creation story. And Wustatamo sweat house called all the animal people, Kumt, Kumwe, Kumweya, Kumt, come to me. We're all going to have a council, and we're all going to discuss what we're going to do in preparation for the Natito when they come. And so they all started going to the meeting, but these big animals right here, these are prehistoric animals. They were late to the meeting. And because they were late to the meeting, they were turned into stone. And this biggest one here represents the mammoth. And so our Titwatit, our stories have these ancient animals in them, and they were turned into stone. And so when you look at the land teaches you. Every time I'm driving into Lewiston for an appointment or driving back home for something, I will tell myself, if I'm running late, kawati, kawati. And that means always doing something at the last minute. But it teaches me, don't be late or you'll be turned into stone. So they all were going to the meeting, and all these up here were going to the meeting. And Wistatamo started calling them one by one. Kumt, come to me. And I want you to tell me how are you going to qualify as who you're going to be? How are you going to give to the people? Where are you going to be? And so like the tsuyum, the fish came and said, I'm going to be in the piku in the water, and I'm going to sacrifice myself so that the Natitawut can have sustenance. And then the Wowokia came, and Wowokia came, the elk, and galloped around beautifully. Okay, you will be the Wowokia elk. Wowokia said, I'm going to give my Taoist, my horns, so that they can have tools, and I'm going to give my silak, my body, so that they can have meat, and the hide off of me so that they can have clothing. And then the Wowokia galloped off into the mountains where you can find Wowokia elk today. And then the Waptis was flying around, and Kumwea, what do you wish to be? This was the question that the Wistatama always asked them. What do you wish to become? And out of every single time this happened, it's Yaya Coyote was watching. Oh, that looks cool to gallop like a Wowokia. Oh, let's look at the Waptis, the eagle. And the eagle came and flew, and the Wistatama said, you will be highly revered. You'll be high up into the sky, and people would admire you. And then so the Waptis flew away and qualified to be who Waptis is today, a very powerful bird and respected bird. And so it's Yaya, they were all coming and qualifying. And finally it's Yaya, Coyote's turn. And Wistatama said, what do you wish to be? And it's Yaya said, in Kutstita Wowokia, now I wish to be just like Wowokia elk. So, okay, well, let us see you gallop. And so Itziya started to try to gallop, but then he failed and became who he was. And so then Wistatama said, okay, well, what do you wish to be? And so Itziya said, in Kutstita Waptis, now I want to be just like the eagle. Okay, well, let us see you fly. And so Itziya started out, and he was doing okay at first, but then he stopped and became just as he was. Itziya. Wistatama said, Itziya, Imawes, you will be you. You will be powerful. People will know your name, and you will wander up and down the rivers, up and down all around the hills, but you will be powerful. You'll be the hero, and sometimes you'll be the trickster, and sometimes you'll be the fool, but you are good as you are. Imawes, you are Itziya. And so Itziya turned and went off howling, and now you could see him wandering around in the hills today. So they all gave of themselves, and they all said, right now we are speaking to each other as animal people, but after the Natitawut, the human beings come, we will not be able to speak with each other anymore. We're going to be mute. We can't speak to each other. So it's going to be up to the Natitawut, the human beings, when they come, they will have to speak up for us. And so the Nimipu today, we speak up for the animal people by how we take care of the land and things that are affecting us, climate change. We have to speak up because we're trying to protect our land, and climate change is something that is affecting us people or animal people. And we have to take care of the waters because our fish sacrifice themselves for us. And because of that agreement between the Natitawut, the human beings, and the animal people, the Nimipu have one of the strongest fisheries in the whole United States because we're living up to that agreement. And so now they all spread out, and Wistatama Sweathouse said, I'm here alone now, and I'm going to place myself on the ground so that the Natitawut, the human beings, can come here and have a place where they can go to have strength and power. And so he sat himself there and waited for the people to come. And today we go to the Wistatama, the sweat house, and that is a place where you receive strength and power through sweat, through you educate yourself in the sweat house from the stories, and then just being there with the Kyun, the old man. So that's one of the stories I tell the students. And I ask them, every time you go by this place, you ask yourself, you say, Itu what's at the Patsosa? What is it that I wish to become? How am I going to be like the animal people and sacrifice myself to them? And I also say the word Nima every time you go by. And so here I just want to share the morphology of this word. This is a close-up. This is leaving the Nez Perce Reservation. And so if you look at this, wheat mipnama, each remembered, that's what it says. But the broken down, this we is each. The timi comes from the heart, and pini is to pour out, and the ma is referring to the person. So it's like each person pours out. When you remember someone, you are pouring out from your heart. And so the deeper meaning translates each person, animal, people poured out their heart. The word timipnasa means remembering. When one remembers someone, they pour out their heart. And so the language offers indigenous knowledge when the deeper meaning of the word is known. And so this is something that just always really affects me deeply. To remember the people in the future, you pour out your heart to them. Okay, and so I was going to share a little bit of what I'm doing at the University of Idaho. As Julian stated, this is my dissertation is going to be called Titwatit Nimiputipwatis Septimelechnikt Nimipuwitki Kasukwanawat, the stories Nimipu language land, investigating the people's way of thinking and knowing. And I have the pictures of huckleberries in here because when we're looking at our Titwatit, our stories are Tamal, our law. And in them, we have deep teachings that teach us something of valuable. And I used to describe our teachings when you learn something within the story, it's like, I used to say, it's like gold. It's like you find gold. But I want to keep it into the thinking of Nimipu Witki, the people's way of thinking. And so I am using the tsamik, the huckleberries, as a metaphor to describe this. And so when we're searching for knowledge, the ladies talking circle that I work with in my research, in our sessions, we would help fill each other with the tsamik, the royal purple indigenous knowledge. Each of those tsamik, the huckleberries, represent that knowledge. And so this is just the slide that I wanted to show you that kind of describes my research. And I actually was going to read you so that you can kind of see my scholarly type of writing, but I don't know if I have time to do that. So Julian, Mananakasa, what do you think?
I say go for it.
Go for it. Okay. So I'll go ahead and I'll go for it. And let me see, what's this one? Oh, okay. I kind of prepared, like over prepared. So I have a couple other stories I don't think I'll get to, but I'll kind of explain them after I read this one. Okay. So during the Nimipu female educators talking circles, our discussions were like a journey of driving in the mountains in search of the color purple and the green bushes that would reveal the delicious tsamit huckleberries. When you find them, they are valuable, a delight. Ahim kasaiksa, it tastes beautiful, like Nimipu soul food. Huckleberry picking connects us to our ancestors who took the journey in search of tsamit huckleberries, a metaphor for wisdom. The tsamit hold la metkastukwanin, deep knowledge. At each talking circle, we'd mipni tanich, each poured out their heart, filling up each one's basket with the round, royal purple tsamit, huckleberry wisdom. Like the Titwatit Yaya story beings, animal people, in our Titwatit stories, they always prepare for the Natita with the human beings to come. Likewise, the Nimipu female educators, Wit Mipni Tanich, each pouring out their heart, told their stories to feed the Nimipu, the people, with Lamekastukwanin, deep knowledge of tsamit, huckleberries. When one thinks of indigenous knowledge, one most likely refers to the knowledge passed down to us from our ancestors. Our ancestors learned from their ancestors, but somewhere along the line, one learns through experiential learning, trial and error, etc., and learns new ways of knowing. Indigenous scholar and author Joanne Archibald uses a metaphor to describe creating new knowledge. And she says, Principles are like strands of a cedar basket. When they are combined to create story meaning, they are transformed into new designs and also create the background, which shows the beauty of the designs. Archibald, 2008. The Nimipu female educators in the talking circles created woven works of new knowledge, indigenous epistemology, the way of doing. Similarly, I use a corn husk bag woven by Nakats, my maternal grandma, and I, as a metaphor. I display it when I tell the stories told by my great-grandfather Sam Lott and my grandmother, his daughter, Rena Catherine Ramsey. Their stories of knowledge colorfully weave together and create new meanings. The Indigenous Research Framework of Relationality, Accountability, Kovac, 2009. Like the beautiful and unique corn husk bag, it now has a valuable purpose. This is the ontology. It can be useful for generations to come. I hope that we Nimipu of today will learn the indigenous Tla'amalwit law teachings and be moved to meetnet, pour out our heart, remember, prepare, and sacrifice for the Nimipu, the people, just like the Titwatityaya, the story people, did for us. I will share the new indigenous knowledge that the Nimipu female educators wove together beautifully in their talking circles. The richness of their sharing is a gift of medicine that has given me new powerful perspectives that will strengthen my relationship with the Titwatit stories. I believe the reciprocity of sharing this Tsukwinin knowledge with others will at some point be medicine to them as well. Then perhaps many will drive by Wikmitnima and remember that our teachers, the Titwatityaya story people, animal people, each poured out their hearts, sacrificing themselves for us, the Natita, the human beings. In the Titwatitnawat traditional folktale, it's Iaya Coyote, always Hitolaitza. He is going upriver on a journey. In our journeys, we can look to the Watis, the land, and listen to the Titwatit stories and the Nimiputim, the people's language within them, and fill our baskets with royal purple tsamik, huckleberries of indigenous knowledge. So this is a part of my dissertation writing. And I'm just going to share these slides really quick. I wrote a story called Heaven on Earth on Horses. And this is when we crossed the Yellowstone River in 2009. The last time before that previously was in 1877. And as we rode across, we galloped the dike and swam our horses across this. My brother Jack and Abe leading the way. And it was exhilarating. That's why I named it Heaven on Earth on Horses. If you wanted to know what pure joy looks like to capture this moment, that's how it felt. And I wrote a story on this, but I won't read it. I'll just briefly tell it to you. I just briefly told it to you. But it was in doing this, we war hooped and we were in victory and celebration. And our ancestors fought and died so that we can live good lives. And so this was like a victory ride because our ancestors fought for us to be here, to be free, to experience that. And so I honor that today to our ancestors by living a good life for them. Myself personally, I live a clean life. I'm free from drugs and alcohol or anything that abuses me, except for food. I'm having a hard time with that one. But this is a story I wrote. I just told it to you briefly. I'm not going to read it. And this one, this is called Fried Bread Crime Scene. I didn't write this story, but as a storyteller, Titwatiawat, Julian calls me a master. I don't really call myself that one, but we write the stories and we learn the stories and retell the stories. And so in this one, I'm just going to tell this really brief story, and this will be the last one. This is a true story. And so I just want to tell you as I remember it. So I call it the Fry Bread Crime Scene. I was, I think, a senior in high school, and I had to live with my sister up at Washington State University, my sister Dawn, and I was living in the summer with her and her good friend, her roommate, Terry Toole Sen. And they went to their classes, but I thought I would make some fry bread. And so there I was making fried bread to skinny pach. I don't know if it looked as beautiful as this, but as I was making it, the oil started on fire. And it looked similar to this. And I panicked. And it was starting to go higher. And I ran into the bathroom and turned on the shower water. And I came back and I threw that water on this. And it started going up. And I had flour dough all on my hair and my face. And I ran to the door and I yelled for someone to come and help. And you can see I had dough like paw prints on the door, and I had smoke, and he came in and he put it out. So this is what I call my fry bread crime scene. And I just wanted to share that with you because I wanted to give you a little bit of glimpse of who I am, some of my experiences, and to share an oral tradition just from the top of my mind, and to teach you that you do not put out an oil fire with water, or even they say salt or whatever. They talk about using a lid and putting the lid over it, even like a cookie pan, and just leave it there about 20 minutes because it could reheat and it could start a fire. I have statistics on this that it causes a lot of house fires. So anyway, the house did not burn down, the apartment, but my sister and her roommate Terry came home and they saw the fried bread dough and flour all over, and it was a crazy scene. So crazy fried bread crime scene. So yo kalo, that's all. What did you happen with see? Do you have any questions?
Katiao. So what should I ask first? So Hebrew philosophies and knowledges, beliefs, customs, traditions, and visions of the future are central to understanding the lived realities of the people. Basically to illustrate the differences, but also adaptability of telling stories as theory to promote action as change, right? Or those universal laws for people. Ninipu stories are not really separated from theory and facts, and are therefore real sources of data, as well as ways of being. Related oral literatures and cultural traditions and practices of the Ninipu and other, indigenous tribes through their stories. Can you speak to how stories are essentially the roadmaps to our communities?
And so Jillian was part of my research in the Females Talking Circle, and she just gave a lot of huckleberries. And so they're really vital to, when we go huckleberry picking, where you're in search of for those purple knowledge, those purple huckleberries that have knowledge. But I'm just using that metaphor because it's really a connection to our past. And so to know that we had about 300 and some stories that used to be told, and within them there's just this deep indigenous knowledge that can be life-changing. It's like soul food. It feeds the soul. And without those teachings, it affects who we are today. And if everybody knew these stories, they would have the land to look to as our teachers, and they would be able to connect to these stories. And it would be like we always refer to that book, Wisdom Sits in Places, where these stories stalk you, as Julian knows. And sometimes you don't need to be told the whole story over again, or you don't even need to be lectured by your parent. You can just drive by these things, and the stories will wake up and speak to you, like they wake up and speak to me every time I'm going by the mammoth. And I tell myself, kawati kawati, doing something at the last minute, don't be late. And so these Titwatit are really vital for our community to for our self-esteem, but to have a place where we can go for knowledge, and the knowledge is within our land, our language, and our Titwatit, our stories. Yo.
Do we have any questions from the chat?
Are they even really there? It doesn't feel like it.
Nay, yes. For me, as an Imiku woman, our stories are rooted in the multiple, nuanced, historically and geographically located epistemologies and ontologies found in every Indigenous community. Though they differ depending on time, space, place, tribal nation, and individual, there are also commonalities in these ontologies and epistemologies, as Angel has so told us through, verbs and root words and, language revitalization through storytelling, right? So story is rooted in these commonalities while simultaneously recognizing the range and variation that exists within and between communities and individuals. When we tell our stories, we are cultivating and expressing ourselves and cultural values and experiential knowledge as a way to inform thinking in various ways to create a connection to each other and to our communities. As a result, narrative accounts and testimonies are valued as key sources of facts and data. Listening seriously involves an ability to make connections between traditional community values and those in larger societal institutions like service programs, universities, and our chosen professions. Story work values narrative, and again, these stories are important sources of data. When we share our stories, we also integrate experiential knowledge drawn from a shared history as other, with people's ongoing struggles to transform a world through those stories. Service and reciprocity to our community. Katiao Oikalo, thank you everyone for being with us here in community tonight. We do have one more question, and that's we only have time for one more question. So this question comes from Gabriel Davis. Regarding the creation story, is there any more to the story? It was my favorite. I'm mostly interested if there are any more details surrounding it that may have been left out for brevity's sake.
So there are, this is a type of creation story that I shared with you. We do have the creation story that we call Timnapa. It's the heart place. It's also known as Coyote and Monster, and also known as Heart of the Monster. For my master's program at University of Idaho, I staged that play with a number of Nimipu language people, and we acted the state. We performed it, but we spoke our lines all in the language, and we had two beautiful elders that were also part of it as the storytellers. And you can find that on nimiputim.org, and I provided that link in the chat. And when you go there, you go to nimiputim.org, which is the people's language, and you find the tab that says stories, and you'll be able to watch the video of what we created in 2013. And so, and then the story that I told you, there is, it's hard to say, well, this is what I left out. I just did a brief, but I think I pretty much got the gist of it. Usually I spend about 20 minutes to tell that story, but I had to, really make it a little short. And you might hear the different variations of it because there's, as I said, there's different titles for the story, but where we lived is a vast land and 300 some stories, but 13 million acres into Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and parts of Wyoming. And so you can imagine the different variations people might have.
Alice, Nick. One more question from Trevor Bond. Do you remember the first story that really resonated with you? Your first tit-wat-tit.
I think like we have like staples, I guess you can say, people that these are like the go-to ones that are usually always told and retold. And to me, what sticks out in my mind is what I used to call as Heart of the Monster. But now I refer to it as Timnapa. the heart place, because that's where the heart place is in Kamiai. And the reason that resonates to me, and because one of the things that happens with the Titwatut, the stories, is you grow with the stories and you learn, and something magical will come, a huckleberry will come and hit you on the head, and luckily, if you're lucky, in the mouth, and you can eat it, meaning the knowledge of that story. And so to me, I grew with it, and it wasn't until I don't know how many years ago that I really woke up in the story. The story really woke up into me. And one of the things that woke up into me is in that creation story, it's we as Ninipu, although we were created to be small, but we also were created to be powerful and smart people, kind. And so I learned from that to be kind and to know I am powerful, but to know that I have this wisdom, that I was given that gift of knowledge, of being capable, of being smart. And that was really powerful to me, because growing up as a kid, like a lot of Indian kids, I didn't think I was smart, because we were measured against the Western way of teaching. But our indigenous way, our Nimipu Witki, our people's way of thinking, our Nimipu Nawa, our people's way of knowing, we have intelligence. But I wasn't taught that in the schools, that I was smart. And now, according to my coyote story, I'm living up to that. The creation story, a greatness of being smart, being powerful, being kind was given to me. That was my gift. And I have to live up to that. And so that just really raised my self-esteem, that story there. Yo, hello, that's all.
Beautiful. See, Sikawasnif, so smart and intelligent. I have to say, Katsiao Angel, for joining us here tonight. Katsiao, thank you to our virtual audience, and of course, Katsiao to my class, which you can't see because they're all in front of you. But I've been getting lots of text messages and actually emails already saying, holy crap, oh my gosh, Angel is amazing. Like I said, I don't care what Angel says, she is a master storyteller. She's been doing this so long. And I feel lucky to call her my Lautiwa Ka Sepakamnawat, my friend and my teacher. So again, Katsiao Yao Angel, for joining us here tonight and honoring us with your storytelling. Thank you. Yeah, we have to do a little more. Thank you.